Γεια σου, καλώς ήρθες σε ένα ακόμα bonus επεισόδιο του podcast «Μάθω το παιχνίδι του χρήματος». Θα το κάνουμε και σήμερα στα αγγλικά, όπως έχουμε ξεκινήσει το 2025. So I would like to welcome David Fernandez. Happy to have you here at our podcast.
Καλώς ήρθες στο podcast «Μάθε το παιχνίδι του χρήματος». Ζούμε σε έναν κόσμο όπου το χρήμα παίζει κυρίαρχο ρόλο. Αλλά κανείς δεν μας έχει εξηγήσει τους κανόνες του παιχνιδιού, καθώς η οικονομική παιδεία δεν διδάσκεται στα σχολεία. Γιατί το χρήμα είναι παιχνίδι? Είναι σκοπός ή μέσο? Είναι το χρήμα το πιο σημαντικό πράγμα στη ζωή? Αυτό είναι το σωστό μέρος για σένα που θέλεις να μάθεις πώς να διαχειρίζεσαι σωστά τα χρήματά σου, πώς να αποκτήσεις παθητικά εισοδήματα και πώς να αρχίσεις να χτίζεις όλες τις σωστές συνήθειες που θα σε βοηθήσουν να πετύχεις όλα όσα ονειρεύεσαι. Γιατί το παιχνίδι του χρήματος είναι τελικά το παιχνίδι της ζωής.
So, David, you are the CEO and co-founder of Virtual Advisor Board.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome.
So, before you tell us what is this about, I would like our listeners to know about your story. You were born in Mexico. So, what's your background and how did you manage to create this advisory board?
Lovely. Thank you so much. So despite that I have been for the last 17, 18 years of my life living in Sao Paulo in Brazil, you are right. I am originally from Mexico. I was born and raised there. All my family until now, they are living there. I studied international business. I had the opportunity to study in Mexico City, where I made like all my studies. Then I had a study abroad in Singapore. I got back. I'm very curious about like the world internationalization. And then I wanted to work for corporates. So I started my career working at Cadbury, so the confectionery, right? Candies, gums, and so on. And when I was 18 years old, I made an exchange student program to Brazil. And I just fell in love with that country. So after me having my studies in Mexico, I was very curious and I was like, I want to go and live in Brazil back. So then I moved there, and there is where all this story started.
Okay, so you started in Brazil at this company?
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit. So what is the journey? So I stayed first working for Cadbury a couple of years. There's like my first official job.
What was your position there?
Yeah, I was working with category management. So I was attending some big retailers and I was much more in the trade marketing area, right? And then it was in 2011, once I was already living in Brazil, that I was invited to join Groupon. I don't know if you remember the coupons company.
Yes, we use them a lot here in Greece.
Exactly. Still the company exists actually in some countries. And I joined them. I stayed there for 7 years. So I started living in Rio de Janeiro, then in Sao Paulo. They gave me the opportunity to not just take care of the services and products area, but also the tourism was a completely different world. Okay. And after that, they asked me, because of my background, Mexican, if I could go back to Mexico to take care of the team and also to take care of the Puerto Rican team. And I stayed there for 7 years. And after 7 years, when I got back to Brazil, I received a call of a friend of mine that he was working as a managing director for a company in London. And Igor invited me to move to London in 2018. So I moved in 2018 until 2020, approximately, and there is where the story of VAB starts. Exactly in a date that you will remember very well, February 2020, the world stopped, COVID arrived, and there is where VAB started.
Okay. And so your background all this year was like managerial. You had teams of people that you used to coordinate. What is your background at the work area?
Before
VAB.
VAB. So yeah, it was much more like as a sales director, building teams. I built teams up like to 60, 65 people.
Did you do the recruiting or you just received the people and had to
I was absolutely doing like all the processes since the beginning until the end. So it was much more on scaling and building the teams. Actually, a very interesting fact, because today I have around 16 people working with me with VAB, all of them remotely. I have people in Sri Lanka, people in Mexico, people.
They're full-time for the VAB?
Yeah,
Okay.
they are full-time. But it's quite interesting because many of them, they used to work for me in different companies from my journey.
Okay, so you cherry-picked them from your last companies and they came because of you?
Exactly. I think that they trust David, they trust the project. So for example, next week, I'm going to be in Latvia. So right now here, I am with Callum. Callum is my membership director. He used to work, he's British, he used to work for me in this company in London, like I don't know, 2018 approximately. And next week, I'm going to be with Saifa, that is another lady from my team, that it's the head of partnerships. And she also worked with me in another company as well.
Okay, so I have a lot of questions. First one, have you ever been to a board before creating the VAB? Member of the board, some of the companies?
No. Like until there, my role was much more, as you say, managerial, C executive. And then is when I faced a transition, because the company where I was, unfortunately, I was made redundant around like February. That is exactly the time that the COVID started. So until there, it was also much more like being part of the corporate space. And then it's when I started to have this idea with Mark Hamill, that it's my partner, he's Irish. And there is where the magic started and I became my entrepreneur journey. So I have been basically 5 years as an entrepreneur and independent board member as well.
So a lot of people that listen to us want to make this transition, you know, from working for somebody else to create my own company or idea. How easy it was for you to make the transition? And from the game of money point of view, you know, when I create my own company, I do not have a salary. Each month coming in. So you created the company with your own money. You just had some co-investors. How did this go on?
That's a very interesting question. And I'm very proud to say that what Mark and we have built, and perhaps giving a little bit of context to the audience, what we have built, it's a global community of board members and advisors around the globe. We started literally with 7 members. I remember perfectly in 2020, my phone rang and it was Mark, who is a headhunter, trying to invite me to join a company in Scandinavia. Of course, with all the situation, the interviews were canceled. But Mark and we were there. I wanted to stay in Europe. I hired Mark as my headhunter. And there is where Mark said, hey, David, I like your profile. You understand Latin America. I'm a headhunter. And now with COVID, what we are seeing is that there's many advisors that they want to become part of a company, right, as a board members. But there are companies that were reaching out to Mark to look for talent. But then the people in Greece, for example, was not anymore traveling to Germany or traveling to their board meetings in South Africa. So this is where Mark said, hey, let's build the virtual advisory board. I say, hey, this is a good idea. I'm still going to continue with my career. At that time, I actually was participating and selected as a sales director for a French company. So I moved back to Brazil. But in parallel, I was building with Mark the community. Okay. This community that started with 7 people. Today, we're very proud to say that we do not have any private equity backing us. It's 100% between Mark and me. And we are currently in 80 countries with 1,100 members that are seated now in 4,200 board seats around the globe. So not money before, and not penny invested. It's a lot of passion. And honestly, it was a good opportunity of being in a mega trend that are like the executives on transition, but also being there during the COVID time. So COVID time to us, we're a little baby from the COVID times.
Okay, interesting. And it's good because it's virtual, so you do not need to have headquarters, you know, and all of these expenses that a normal company should have.
That's right.
Okay, so why should a company, because in Greece we have a strange mentality, especially to SMEs, why should a company have a board at the beginning?
Yeah.
And why should someone hire someone to attend a board who is outside of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first of all...
and when should it be done? At which level?
Yeah. Perfect. I love this. And there are like different stages. First of all, let's differentiate what is a board of directors versus an advisory board, right? The boards of directors exist like from long time, like to bring governance, like to bring really the framework or how a company can be well represented by a group of directors. Some of them are independent. They represent the interests of the stakeholders, shareholders, but also work closer with the C-level. Sometimes with fiduciary responsibility, any big company, let's say it's PepsiCo or Procter & Gamble or GSK in the case of pharmaceutical, they have their own board of directors, right? Big companies, many of them public, and this is one thing, corporate governance, and also existing this in private companies, and you have a fiduciary responsibility. When we talk about the advisory space, that also it's a part of our community, what we take care, the advisory space comes in different stages, right? The advisors are much more there like to support CEOs, support entrepreneurs. Normally what we have seen, and with data that we have from some partners of us, that is the advisory board center, is that a company starts after raising their first 1.5 million, their concerns about having a good governance. It's really until they raise around like 18 million, that's the average, when they decide to set up a advisory board. Advisory boards can be much more informal. Many entrepreneurs that are listening to us, they can start calling to a friend, hey, can you help me on this? You are a CFO, I'm putting this project together. That's informal. It's good, but not that formal. And depending on the progress, you can start like actually looking for external people. So then is when the non-executive directors or independent directors can come.
Exactly.
What are the benefits is that perhaps if you are in the food and beverage industry, you can bring someone from a different sector that is not biased, that can come to your company to give advice, to give opinion, because the big difference and the transition that you have when you are an executive is that as an executive, you are a doer. You are working on the day by day, the P&Ls, you have decision-making and so on, while when you are a board member or an advisory board member, you are much more there to advise, to provide advice, to challenge, to make questions. That's like some of the differences.
And maybe you can see some weak spots that I cannot see from the inside. Or maybe I have a certain goal or target that I have to reach because I have my bonuses. And that's not good always for the company. That's not always good. So maybe you can see it and advise me, okay, maybe you can reach this goal, but long term, this is not good for your company.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's about like all like the advisory board is about challenging. And this is the magic of VAB. In VAB, that actually we are a company established in the UK, but we are global. We are launching now here in Greece, our chapter, together with Tassos Hispanidis, that you know very well. And we are in different locations, but we are diverse. And this is the magic. In the boardroom, what is needed is diversity, right? So normally, if you ask to anyone, and perhaps the people on the board that thinks about a board, they think about like 8 white men, gray hair, drinking whiskey and going to play golf and getting high bay fees for 4-6 meetings that they are doing over the year. This has changed a lot, right? First of all, like the tenure of them, it's getting shorter, right? The needs as well. The women representation as well. So globally, I believe it's like 12%. In VAB, we have 30%. We have over 350 amazing women, right? So what we're looking is not just on this topic of diversity and inclusion, but it's also having different perspectives. So in VAB, for example, we have 140 approximately different industries. So if you want someone that understands about the drones, energy, aviation, about, I don't know, oil and gas or bioplastics, you will find it. And it's very interesting because those people are really trained to provide advice to companies and to entrepreneurs. 90% of the companies that have set up a board, they see a 15% at least growth on their revenues as a result of this. There is like still 10% that they do not see the impact, but depends a lot on the kind of advisors that they hire.
Okay, so these people that the 1,000 people that are at VAB, they are external advisors. Right. Okay, yeah. So they have their own companies or their C-levels or whatever they do in their life, and they also part of your community?
Yeah, exactly. So basically you have 4 kind of, let's say, personas inside our community. Normally are a lot of CEOs and presidents with 15, 20 years of experience, many times like much more. And they are thinking, because they are transitioning. Transitioning doesn't mean that you were made redundant, right? Transitioning means that you are reinventing yourself. After 20 years of being operational, they decide like, hey, I still have the energy. Perhaps there are around like 50s, 53s, but we have like much more younger and also older people. And they say like, hey, I want to give back to the corporates. So I still have the energy and I want to join. This is one group. They might be joining VAB either because they want to go to their first board position, they've never been, or to their next board position. Some of them has been like really fantastic big groups. The second group, and perhaps for the audience that are listening to us, it's interesting because the entrepreneurs might be thinking on establishing the governance. They join VAB as well as a member, and they are looking not to sit on a board, but they want to build their boards. So you can go with a headhunter.
Okay.
I'm also a board headhunter, by the way. And I can charge, like who is not, a certain amount of thousands of dollars to do a retainer fee and start the shortlist and the search. And then we help them to get placed. The benefit is that if you're an entrepreneur, part of VAB, and with your project, without the group of your companies, we can help you to set up. This morning, this literally happened. Someone was looking for people in the cosmetics space, can be working remotely, and I made like 3 or 4 connections already to people inside the community. This is the second profile. So first is CEOs, presidents. Second one, the entrepreneurs. Third one, we have angel investors. Some of them, they come because they say, hey, I would love like to invest in some interesting projects. I want to be a board observer. I want to learn about governance, because VAB what offers is a space where you can be doing a lot of peer-to-peer learning, right? So it's a platform where you can be sharing knowledge with board members. And the fourth profile are experts. You don't need necessarily to be the super CEO. We have CEOs level, Philip Morris, Chanel, big companies, really global. But we also want experts, people that understand some specific topics. And just like to finalize and continue with the flow, is that our premise on how we create the VAB is that 80% of the chances for you to start making this new movement in your career as a board member or advisory will be coming by networking. But needs to be a strategic networking.
Okay, and that's really important because you talk a lot about networking. I love networking. You know, at my personal brand, it's Alex Vandoros, connecting the dots.
You are a community builder as well. I'm impressed of what you have built.
Exactly. So I would like for our listeners to hear from you the importance of networking and how can I do network in the proper way.
Exactly.
In the after COVID area.
Exactly. I think that after COVID, everything changed. It's still until nowadays we can see as a result. Many people talk about networking, but networking is not sending an email to one person and just add a connection. For example, I am also an expert in terms of LinkedIn, in terms of how our board members can raise their visibility and so on. And one thing that I'm going to tell you, I never accept a connection that is not coming with a message. Like, hey, what is the reason of why you want to connect with me? Or the other way around. I think that networking with purpose is different. So what I suggest with my board members is that, hey, first of all, this is about like supporting the others. It's about like also like giving back. So, hey, how can I help you? It's not just about like asking for a favor. So in the case specifically of the VABers, what I suggest when they are networking is that, hey, try to think on your objectives. First of all, what is your unique leadership experience? What is what you can add, for example, on a board if you're going to make a good connection? Think also which is the geographies, which are the location, which are the industries that you want to target. Once you have this defined, then is when you can start doing like targeted networking. This is that kind of people that I want like to chat. Even though that we are not a board placement company, what we suggest is that you need to treat as a member VAB like if it's your own board of directors. So invest 4 or 5 hours. Every single person in the community is really open to have a conversation with you, and you can learn with them. They can become like your mentors, your friends. We have been connecting many people. And I'm going to tell you something. I have seen that the connections are much more, let's say, sometimes much more natural that I introduce, I don't know, for example, like someone like Shimi, who is based in Dubai, to someone in Singapore. There is where it starts like really great things happening. So yeah, my recommendation is always like to spend some couple of slots of 30 minutes. 30 minutes, I think it's a good time for you to know a person, to chat, but you need to be structured. Never jump on a call without knowing the person. Do a quick screening, understand how do you want to connect the dots, as you say.
Okay. And as you told me before we start this interview, you travel a lot. You told me that you live on a plane.
I do.
So what's the importance of physical networking at a virtual era?
It's really interesting because at the beginning, the first 2 years, we were running events at every Friday, 4 p.m., I remember perfectly, in the UK. Right now, we have more than 200 webinars that still are happening virtual. But what we have done differently is that in this year, in this year today, from January to today, July 25, we have put together 750 members in-person meetings. So you are right, I travel a lot. I've been now, like I was chatting recently here with your team. I started, I think this year in Argentina, Uruguay, Ireland, Madrid, Zurich, Basel, like many countries. And in all those countries, we put the community together. And it's differently. Like people still like this connection. Of course, it's faster for you. You optimize your time by doing it virtual, but it's still like having this human touch is important. That's why Tassos invited me to come here. Last night, we had an event at Fortune, and we had like over 40 people. It was really incredible. And it's completely different when you meet with a person, when you are really exchanging, right? Tonight, we have another event, right, here in Athens. And I think that really makes the difference by you being in person as well.
I totally agree. And meeting someone in person is the way to open the gate for this connection, and it can go on, through messages or LinkedIn or anything. What is money for you? Because it's the game of money.
What is money to David? Okay, I want to tell you. I let's say that I am a fan of money.
Okay.
I started I remember perhaps I was 7 years old, and it is a joke internally in my family, but someone come and say, hey, can I buy your mom? And I say, yes, give me 5 Mexican pesos. And my mom say until today that there's where my career commercially started. No, but kidding apart, I always love to do business, right? I think that my way was important to start to learn how the corporate workspace, but really my passion has been always as an entrepreneur. Money to me is a consequence. To be honest, and I'm going to tell you why the VB community, many people come to me and say, hey, David, what you have been doing together with your team and Mark, it's incredible. Have you ever thought that from the COVID, from that call, you have now 1,100 members around the globe? And the secret is that I do not think necessarily on the financial aspect. I think really much more on connecting people, passion, and as a consequence, I see money coming. So money to me is much more a retribution for someone's passion. That it's the way that I see it.
Okay, and a difficult question, as an entrepreneur, would you sell VAB sometime?
As an entrepreneur,
if you would sell.
If I would at some time.
If I would, you would.
To be honest, I mean, at the moment we are so engaged and we have a very strategic plan for the next 5 years. That we have a very clear strategy where we want to go. We want to go to a community of 10,000 members.
Okay.
We are, and I'm very proud to say, I believe the only platform online that really is global. There are many communities that are local. VAB really put the international community. We have received calls every day. Every day a member, at least one person in the world, right, was from Pakistan and Sri Lanka, Sao Paulo, Ecuador, wanting to hear about VAB because we are starting to get our global presence. But we have received some people interested in our business as well. But what we have defined with the board, that it's Ivan Komerma and with Mark, is that we want to build it by ourselves still a couple of years as we really do this in a boutique way. And we really believe that this is the way to go still for a couple of years.
Okay. And how do you select the people that join the VAB?
Yeah,
what are your criteria, I guess?
We have a screening criteria. I have a team. So Carlo Michinson, as I say to you, he's the global membership director. we have a team of some what I call recruiters, right? So we screen the profiles. People can come via website or people can call us directly. Yesterday, I was here in Greece and I received a phone call on my WhatsApp. It was a lady trying like to understand a bit more. We always do a 30 minutes selection with them. We understand their stories. Normally, it's 10 minutes to hear where they are on their careers. From our side, being very mindful if they fit or not the purpose of the community. We reject, unfortunately, lots of people. And then we take some time like to talk about VAB. They need to understand what we are doing. And what we really want on that call is also to hear how they can contribute to the community. You're a community builder. So the much more that you give, the much more that you receive back. So that's like normally like the screening process that we are doing. And just to be also sharing with you, 70% of our community is built by our members. So it's what we have as VAB for VAB. It's a VABer recommending another VABer. They are happy with the experience. They introduce us with colleagues or with people that operate or that are curious in the boardroom space.
Okay. So because you travel a lot and you have a global overview through your network of the economy and the financial, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the global economy in the next years?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It depends. I think that we are like really facing a huge challenge with the economies. I mean, in Latin America, the situation currently, it's quite challenging. But then you come here to Europe as well and the rest of the globe. I would say that it still will be a challenging 26. I think that will be turbulent times. But after all that we have been passing over the last years, I think that people are much more ready to prepare contingent plans, right? So right now, I think that the socio-economical and geographical situation is putting things a little bit much more difficult. I don't want to enter into the details in terms of views or policies, but I do think that we are a little bit much more prepared in different countries like to go through these potential challenges economical.
Okay. So one last question to some young entrepreneur that listens to this podcast. From your overview of advisory boards, what are the main steps that he must follow to become successful for him and his company?
Wow. I think that the best thing is that you need like to be surrounded with very smart people. So always do this. Always try like to hire people that are smarter than you. Try like to understand more about the governance and the trends that are happening. I think that having an advisor, you don't need to pay necessarily thousands. I mean, if we talk about compensation, the average that an advisory board in a well-established company or private company would be around $50,000. In a public company, it will be $125 or more $1,000 per year. But as a young entrepreneur, if you are trying like to set up the first steps, perhaps you can be offering even equity, right? There are many advisors that they are really willing to support. They are there with a purpose.
Are your advisors free to choose how they compensate it? If
Look,
someone wants
like the way that we do it is like if someone comes in our platform and say, hey, I want to meet one of your advisors, we let them make the business. We never charge revenue shares.
If you want to take equity, you're fine with this?
Absolutely. I mean, like they can do it, whatever negotiation they can do, right? But what I can tell you is that there are like many advisors, many smart people, big names, that are very willing to give back. Because again, what I come back is that many people are there to support the young entrepreneurs to build better governance structures.
Exactly. So thank you very much for the conversation. It was delightful for me also.
Thank you.
Your website, so we can find.
Yeah, it's www.virtualadvisoryboard.co.uk. If anyone wants like to know further, can be to Callum, CALLUM, at same URL.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And
Alex, thank you so much, and ευχαριστώ.
Και εσύ που ακούς το επεισόδιο, εφόσον πήρες αξία, με χαρά να το μοιραστείς με άλλους. Αν θες το βρεις και με υπότιτλους, μπαίνεις στο YouTube κανάλι μας. Να είστε καλά, τα λέμε την Τετάρτη.